Hi everyone, this is Jacqueline from She Rises Studios, and welcome to today's Light the Torch ceremony featuring the powerful anthology, The Rise of Her Stories of Resilience, Reinvention, and Rising Strong. This isn't just a book, it's a global movement with 100 courageous women from around the world sharing their personal journeys of pain, power, and purpose. The Rise of Her is a bold statement that what happens when women choose to rise, whether through adversity, transformation, or triumph, each story is a beacon of strength and sisterhood. And today, we are honored to spotlight a few of the incredible voices who help bring this vision to life. Let's dive into the movement, and the rise of her starts now. Hello, authors. How are you today?
Wonderful.
Great.
So happy to be.
Hello, so nice to be here.
Wonderful. Well, we are so excited about this anthology. Why don't we go around and introduce yourself for those that don't know you yet? Tell us a little bit of who you are, what you do, and what made you say yes to the Rise of Her anthology. What does this mean to you personally? Maybe we can start with Pat.
Thank you. I'm Pat Schultz, and I am the owner and founder of Ready for Takeoff. Through personalized coaching, I help women over 40 transform their fears into actionable steps, resulting in greater satisfaction and success in both their personal and professional lives. And I really debated whether or not I wanted to include my story in this anthology. Why? Because I was afraid. I was afraid of the judgment. I was afraid of what people would think about me. And I had never shared this information about myself.
Mm,
And it was basically my journey through almost my entire adulthood, struggling with depression and alcohol abuse. And the depression started when I was a senior in college. And back in the 1970s, mental health wasn't on the radar that it is now. And it took me until my 50s to finally meet with a psychiatrist who could medicate me properly. And I often think
mm,
back, wow, what would my life have been like if this had happened earlier? And somewhere along the line, I started self-medicating with alcohol, which of course just exacerbated the situation for me. And so I decided that it was time to speak out and let other women know that they need to be assertive in finding out what's wrong and don't take no for an answer. I often wonder, what could I have done differently? But the depression wasn't a character flaw. It was a physiological condition that required precise medication, and I just didn't get the help that I needed until later in life. But it was not too late, and I've made great strides since then, and that's what I wanted to share with women.
wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining this anthology, Pat. Let's go to Melissa.
Hello, all. I'm so excited to be part of the Rise of Her. I am Melissa Swanger. I am the founder of the Sage Hill Project, where we are mobilizing radical kindness. And I'm the co founder of the Mind Body Spirit Institute. I am specialized in transformation, and that is systemic transformation. And I'm the developer of the Integrative Transformation Blueprint. And why I chose to include my story, or at least the chapter of my story, Gifts Along the Way, was just part of the journey of rising, of women rising together, is recognizing that we have a choice to make. For me,
Mhm.
I received people that I'd met along the way who sewed into my life positively as the gifts along the way. And then I have a choice. With one hand, I stay balanced by reaching out to the people who sow into me. And with the other, I am able to reach out and sow into others. And that allows me to both receive the gifts along the way and to be a gift along the way. And it recognizes that we all have struggles and strengths. We all have tests and triumphs. And together, it just makes a wonderful mosaic and a masterpiece.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Melissa. Linda.
Hello, everyone. I'm Linda Wilson, and I hail out of Denver, Colorado. I'm a coach that specializes in emotional support, emotional intelligence, and ethical influence. And my chapter is called I'm Not Dead Yet. And mostly what my chapter talks about is, I wanted to let women know that there's a lot of things that can get in our way during our lifetimes. But every morning that we wake up, that means there's a purpose for us being there. And so to kind of find ways to push through, to rise above, to know that we're here for a purpose. And when we realize what that purpose is, our life has a lot more meaning. And so for me, the trials and tribulations, a lot of the things, especially when I was younger, that I went through, I put on myself. Nobody else did them to me. I wasn't the victim of abuse. I had a loving family. I had friends that tolerated me because they loved me, and I made myself miserable. Nobody else did. And I wanted people to know that we've trained ourselves and we've trained others how to treat us. And if we don't like those results, we can change that, and we can retrain people to treat us the way we want to be treated, and we can retrain ourselves to believe that we're worthy to be treated the way we want to be treated. So my chapter is just kind of a little bit, don't give up hope. If you wake up every morning, there's a reason for it. Let's go out and live that.
That's true. Wonderful. I love that. Thank you, Linda. Let's go to Willow.
I am feeling inspired already, loving to hear people's stories and put the faces with the beautiful stories that have been moving through. So I'm Willow Merchant. I'm the founder of Emerging Hearts Collective. I am trained as a nurse and a nurse practitioner for more years than I want to disclose at this point. And I work, so my chapter in the book is called Alchemizing My Mess into Magic. And it's exactly that. It's a story of taking the lived experience and the wisdom and figuring out how to alchemize that into gold and into something that's meaningful. I wanted to write this story because my story is so many people's story. And that is the experience that I've had in working with women, living a lot of days in women's circle and spaces dominated by women. I feel like I've heard my story in other people's stories so often. And so being a voice to that story and saying like, it's okay. We're all a little messy and it's okay. So now in my life, I work with people around getting their nervous system online so that we are not fighting against our biology all the time. And so that we can really be like this most magical, best version of ourselves, leading with inner authority. So I work a lot with leaders, healthcare leaders, executive leadership around building their clarity, confidence, and connection so that they can ripple that out, not only in their own lives and through their own families and partnerships, but out into the teams that they lead, and that in turn into the systems that we're in, and in turn into, most importantly, our patients that we're taking care of. So
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, Willow. Erica.
Hello, so excited to be here and a part of this beautiful book. I can't believe that there's 100 women in this book. That's so amazing. I'm so excited to read all the different stories. I think that when we come together and write together, it can just impact so many more people's lives because they're going to hear something in each person's story that's going to help transform them. So excited to be here. My name is Erica Elliott. I'm a brain code strategist, transformational speaker. I am the founder of Warrior Heart Healing Hearts and the co-founder of Mind, Body, Spirit Transformation Institute. I work with people to help them clear the mess to discover their masterpiece using neuroscience-backed evidence tools and helping them move into their next level of success in leadership. I just love this journey. I've been writing now. This is, I think, the 18th book that I've been in over the last year. And so I'm grateful to be here and a part with all these amazing, wonderful individuals here.
And we love having you on all of these anthologies, Erica. Thank you. Let's go to Ali.
Hi, everyone. So honored to be here. I am Ali Jacaruso, formerly Ali Levine. It's so nice to meet you all. I'm so honored to get to be here in this space where these collective women are sharing their stories and helping really people turn their trauma into triumph and, their passion into purpose. And so I'm a certified and trauma-informed his breath coach. So I align people's nervous systems as well, rooted in God and aligning and healing in mind, body, and spirit. And I teach people how it's not about the work in our breath, but how it's actually about restoration, rejuvenation, and recalibration, and showing people the difference and how our body really responds to that and moves back into what I like to call heaven's frequency. I'm also a public speaker, and my chapter is called The Rise of Surrender, and it's all about teaching you how to walk through surrender and the peace that comes from that when we actually let go of control and allow ourselves to trust in what is happening instead of fighting against what is coming for us, and to start to see things from that perspective, from heaven's eyes, I like to say, instead of from our own limited perspective that only sees so much. And so trusting in that alignment and allowing mind, body, and spirit. I mostly work with mothers and women, being a mother of 3 myself and going through heavy postpartum depression and anxiety and overcoming that through this. And so I teach women how to walk out and do the same and embody this beautiful surrender. So I'm honored to be here, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Alan. On that particular note, I wanted to ask if you've shared this on your chapter, maybe just give us a glimpse of the moment that you decide to rise. Was it a single moment, an event, or was it a collective scenarios in your life that made you decide, wait, hold on, I cannot continue to be just here. I wanted to start rising.
Yeah.
Who would like to share?
Do you want me to share?
Yeah,
Jacqueline?
sure.
Okay, sure. It's a beautiful question. I think I'd say for me, there was maybe one big moment where I cried out and I was really in that deep surrender, and then it took other moments. But I think overall in my healing journey, I think a lot of other women have shared this with me as well, is it takes a lot of those moments to kind of compile and hit that catalyst where you go, okay, enough. I can't keep being here. For me, it was like, I can't stay in bed anymore. I can't keep shaming myself and just, ruining myself by my words and by what I, was saying, what I was feeling. It was time to rise, and it was time to surrender all that I was trying to control to make things better, and actually surrender to my mess, and sit in my mess for quite a bit to work through and really take responsibility and accountability for what was going on, and start to change my life from that place and move from a place of gratitude instead of a place of suffering and a victim mentality. And not to say, of course, real victims have real stories, but in my situation, it was a much victim mentality mode, and I needed to rise and say, okay, I'm going to surrender all of this mess and trust instead of trying to fight against it and control, and actually give up what I can't handle and hand it over to the one who can, and start to move forward. And that's where my rise began. And then I would say it was just kind of moment by moment as things would happen, rising to each occasion, and then building that authority and that confidence to move forward then in deeper waters.
Awesome, wonderful. And that's true. I love when you said you take responsibility for yourself, and that you don't expect other people to lift you up, you rise yourself. I love that. Anybody else would like to share?
Oh, well, mine is the rise of her really emphasizes my life verse and how I started writing, actually. So my life verse is John 12:9, and it says, and they came not only to see Jesus, but Melissa, whom he raised from the dead. And so I had lived a portion of my life really in the grave, all the trauma that had put me in the grave, epigenetic trauma, medical trauma, abuse, dysfunction, narcissistic parenting. And it was a moment that I heard my name called forth, right? It's a decision that we can stay in the grave. It's a choice. You can stay wrapped in grave clothes this side of heaven, still taking breath, but not really living. And there comes a moment that you can decide, I am being called forth and I have the courage to take one step up out of the grave and then receive my calling, which part of that was to go back to school to get an education to help other people transform. I went through my own soul healing and transformation journey, then to be equipped to create space for other people to do the same, and then to put it out there in writing and speaking events. And that's where I stand today in the witness, right? So it's the grave, the calling, and then the witness. And that is part of rising, is then helping other people to rise with you. But it starts back at that choice.
That's great. That's awesome. Again, it starts with your choice, your own, you decide for yourself. And I love that you mentioned that when you rise, you take people with you rising, right? And it's such, a wonderful experience going up, rising up with everybody else around you. That's awesome. Well,
it's collaboration over competition, I think.
That's one. Yes, that's awesome. I love that. I love that. Collaboration over competition, especially in the world of, womanhood, in sisterhood. A lot of people are competing with each other. And instead of doing that, let's help each other rise, everybody, right? Now, I wonder if, on your journey to rising, was it one big catapult of rising? I decide to rise right now, or is this a journey? Is this a step? Is it one little step at a time?
Jacqueline,
I could answer that one.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. So for me, I will say it was really micro steps, because in this I write a little bit about the journey of going through a health crisis. So, it's one thing when we decide with our brain that, the reality is we have this other side of life, but it's a whole nother when your whole body is crashed. And for me, I had a brain injury too. And so there was a lot of moving parts and things that I've helped people with for years. So being a counselor of over 30 years, I've always been the counselor who teaches a lot on neuropsych and how what we believe is really what we're going to create. And our words are important. And the word of God teaches us that too. Like, blessings and curses come from the tongue, that we really need to guard our hearts and our minds and what we're speaking and renew our minds. But during those dark moments, it felt impossible to believe that until I really moved into getting still and remembering that God is still God. And if I can give just a little bit of that, having a lot of control over him and move into like micro steps of moving into the new transformation of, okay, so what if this is my life for the rest of my life? And I'm a million times better today. But during that state, I had word finding problems. I could barely get up. I was, probably up maybe 4 hours a day, and the rest of the time was in bed. It was really difficult. And so it was moving into that possibility. If I just do these micro steps, then maybe, even if this is the life that I'm giving, like Paul, that thorn in my flesh, if this is my thorn in my flesh, how can I have a quality of life with what I have right now? And so for me, it was very much micro steps. And maybe somebody who's listening, they're in that state where they're like, yeah, but you don't understand. I went through a crisis that I can barely move. And, I would say, yes, micro steps. Don't think about one big step. Think about the tiniest step that you can move each day to move into the possibility of something greater.
Even just a possibility, right?
Just the
Continue
possibility.
doing a micro step. Yes. Pat, would you like to share something earlier?
Yes, thank you. I think that a lot of women can relate to what I went through. I was afraid to share my story. I was afraid that people would think that it was totally irrelevant, that I was irrelevant, that I was really too old to make an impact with other people. And I actually entered the writing through speaking, because I wanted to be a transformational speaker. And I thought, who am I to get on stage? I'm too old. I'm too fat. I don't have anything to say. People aren't going to like what I have to say. But when I did it, I discovered that people were interested in what I had to say. And that led to the first anthology and the first book. And then it was sort of an evolution. It was like, okay, there's some parts of my story that I haven't shared because, again, I'm afraid people will judge me. What will they think? They will think less of me. And I think many women, we struggle with this. And so when this anthology presented itself, it was like, now it's time to talk about the depression. Now's the time to talk about the alcohol abuse. Now's the time to show people that there is and can be a light at the end of the tunnel, and that being in your 50s is not too late. The chapter, the name of my chapter is 53, When Healing Began. I mean, the healing didn't even begin until I was in my 50s. And it wasn't too late. I've been able to accomplish many of my dreams since then. And I just think it's important that no matter if we're taking this small step, which I did it in steps. I sort of evolved as I got more courage to share more. And when somebody says, gee, your story really resonated with me, it's sort of like, okay, there might be a lot of people out there who dismiss me, but there are women who can relate to my story, and it's those that I'm interested in reaching. And, it's so funny, Erica, you mentioned the little steps. What started this all was my discovery that my mom had never lived her dream. And I discovered that when I was 65 years old. And she had written about it when she was 62. And it was like getting hit with a baseball bat. It was like, oh my gosh, Pat, what are you doing? All right. What are you doing? And I just didn't want other people to regret not going after their dreams. And if my mom had just taken one little step, it would have taken her closer to her dream. And micro steps are so important.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Now that you ladies have risen, and now that you're sharing your stories to help inspire other women out there, what is strength to you right now? What does it mean compared to who you were before? Maybe we can have, I think Lindsay have just joined us. Would you like to share?
Yeah, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Been having technical difficulties staying on, but so I've missed a lot and I love these groups. This is my third anthology with She Rises Studios, and I am so grateful for the opportunity to share another part of my journey as those steps that we take to be a woman in a space of wherever we're at. And the strength that I've had is within my taking care of my health and really focusing on that, because it all factors into every other part of my life and the faucets that open up for me for the opportunities to stay disciplined, to have that success. And I never imagined that younger me would actually succeed becoming a published author. It's been a beautiful space to bring strength into my heart that I illuminate with in just being vibrant, writing, and sharing every little piece that I can. I've had a rough 2025, which I've heard a lot of women and men have, and I just wanted to share my little piece. And this book, when it arised in my space, if I hadn't had this opportunity, I probably wouldn't have gotten out of bed to make things happen because of this choice on this third book with She Rises Studios. So my heart's beaming today because I just feel very just in depths of gratitude, and the women and they're sharing their stories, and that there's such a big movement and that's happening. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, and we're happy that we're glad that you joined this anthology as well. Linda and Willow, would you like to share something about your strength right now?
I think my strength right now comes from my faith and my relationship with God. And it
Hmm.
started, I mean, I'm not religious, but God and I have wonderful conversations. And when I'm when I'm on my best, I learn to shut up and listen instead of speak. Um, I try to use that more and more, but it doesn't always work. Sometimes I just have to unload. Um, but I found that it started with making the decision that I was
Hmm.
going to make things better. And I had this, and I still do, I have this glorious overall picture of what that looks like. And that would sometimes be overwhelming. So then it would be just, what's one thing I can do today to get me closer? And what's one thing I can do today to help someone else? And, the old saying, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? So it was, the decision was almost the easy part. And then not letting myself get overwhelmed by what needed to be done to get there, but just taking it one step at a time, one day at a time, because really that's all we can do anyway.
Hmm.
So if we overwhelm ourselves and get stuck into the minutia or the task of things, for one thing, that takes away the joy, unless you really enjoy just doing tasks, which I do not. Um, and we need to treat our lives with joy. I mean, not everything in it is joyful, but the fact that we're here to experience it, there's a reason behind it, and we need to find that bit of joy in it. And, for me, I mean, I lost 5 people in a 4-year period. And then after that, I lost my mom. And I always knew mom was the rock, but I had
Hmm.
no idea how much until everything was done and the house was sold and I came back to my place and it was like, oh my gosh, she's gone. And
Hmm.
I used to call her every day. I did that for 12 years. And that was a really hard habit to break. But, I just took it a step at a time. So I would say don't let the big picture overwhelm. Keep that big picture as the incentive, the motivation when things get rough, but don't let it overwhelm.
Thank you so much, Linda. Willow, would you like to share anything?
Sure. I love that. Thanks for sharing that, Linda. I think for me, the big flex right now is presence over performance. I lived most of my life in performance mode because I learned early on how you looked and how you presented was more important than anything else. And so I carried that. I learned that lesson so well, and I have really leaned into the strength of presencing and tending to those places that I denied even existed before. And so my program is called Transformation Through Tending, and it's really like the name was born out of it's what we do. Like we tend the parts that need to have a voice and need to be seen, and with that comes the transformation. But I think we can only do that when we can be present and when we can. And I find that a lot working with people in leadership, right? There is sort of this imperative to perform. And I have really found that the presencing works better, just as well, if not better. And so I think that's really the play right now for me and for the folks that I'm supporting.
Thank
So
you so much.
simple,
I
but
love
so hard
that.
to do in practice
Yes.
when it's not what we do. And on that note, I'm going to hop off because I have to go teach a class at 9:30. So
Well, thank you so much. But to close this off here, why don't we go around and we'll start with Willow so she can jump up. She already left. That's fine. To close us off here, I want everybody, to complete this sentence for us. I rise because, and then maybe we can start with Pat.
I rise because I am worthy and because I matter.
Thank you so much, Pat. Melissa?
I rise because it's his strength that lives in me.
Thank you so much. Ali?
I rise because of my faith and my relationship with God.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Linda?
I rise because I know what it feels like to not be able to.
That's true. Thank you. And Erica?
Well, Melissa stole mine, so I'll go with one. That's very similar, but the joy of the Lord is my strength, and therefore I rise because of him.
Thank you so much. That's awesome. What a powerful celebration of strength, vulnerability, and true reinvention. To the authors of Rise of Her, to every woman that's behind the Rise of Her, thank you for standing in your truth, sharing it with the world. And to our viewers, if you've been moved, inspired, or awakened by what you've heard today, don't stop here. This is just a teaser, very short one. Grab your copy of The Rise of Her, now available on Amazon, and continue the journey, because when one woman rises, she lifts others with her. And all together, we rise. Thanks again, everyone. Have a nice day.
Mhm.